Good evening, welcome to Going to Ground. How are you? How's the weekend gone? I hope that all is well. And here in Marlborough this morning, storms have blown themselves out and the golden evening is brightening in the west. It's really quite pleasant outside now after an incredibly stormy couple of days. And I thought I'd focus this evening on William Temple. I wonder what you know about William Temple. I'm learning more and more about him, really. Church of England remembered Temple about 10 days ago, but I was filming from up at the Sanctuary in Avebury that day, so it's appropriate that we include him. Temple, one of the great figures of the 20th century, of course, and was Archbishop of York, then Archbishop of Canterbury, and one of the architects of the welfare state, and that's particularly why he's important in national life. Indeed, Temple coined the phrase welfare state in one of his addresses in the late 1920s, I think it was. And he wrote a very great deal and had that rare blend of being academically deep and able, and yet also had the common touch. Now, he wrote, amongst many other books, this very slim volume, Christianity and Social Order, which was his manifesto for change in the nation, and really laid down some of the principles that would later be adopted in the welfare state. And it came out in 1942, and he died in 1945, really young. I mean, he was, what was he, 60, 65, something like that, and never saw the post-war world take shape. So there's a poignancy to his life and message as well. And this little book is an absolute gem. It's a wonder. It's so short and yet it's so deep. It's one of those books that is weighty and yet simple at the same time. Here he is in the back. That's him here. Not the boy in blue here. So William Temple endorses Craven A cigarettes, you'll be glad to know, and Pears soap, which is on the back of the cover. This is a first Penguin edition from, I think, was it 42, I said? Yeah, 1942. Well, in this little book, Temple outlines what he calls the Christian social principles that he thinks do and should undergird national life. And this was in an era, of course, when religious life in the nation was overwhelmingly Christian in its makeup and character. And the three principles that he outlines are freedom or liberty, social fellowship, we might say community, and service. Freedom, social fellowship, and service. And he goes on to explain A, why they're Christian, and B, why they're basic to our life together. It's brilliant, I have to say. Every time I look again at this book, I find something new in it. And excuse me, Temple's often criticised because he was instrumental in the end of parish-based social welfare. We were looking, I've mentioned, I think, I talked to you about the Workhouse Museum that I visited, and I've been writing about that in the blog, and indeed there's a longer piece on my blog this week that you might like to read all about this. And replacing that with national welfare, the welfare state, the accusation against that, although we think that the welfare state is a very good thing, and in many ways it is that it was a leaving behind of the local basis of somebody's welfare and belonging, and the local community's responsibility, particularly for the poor in their own area, and passing that on to the state, which has had all kinds of results for our consequences, rather, for the way in which we understand the role of government. But actually it's much more nuanced. His views are much more nuanced than that. And listen to this. This is what Temple writes about the role of the state. Most political theories confine attention to the individual and the state as the organ of the national community. They tend to ignore the intermediate groupings. This is his criticism really of socialism, although he himself was a Christian socialist. But that makes any understanding of actual liberty impossible. For liberty exists in the most part in and through those intermediate groups: the family, the church, congregation, guild, trade union, school, university. Liberty is actual in the various cultural and commercial and local associations that men form. So Temple understood deeply the importance of local belonging, as well as the role of the state in looking after the welfare of the nation. And he sums up his objective for a Christian society in this way: the aim of a Christian social order is the fullest possible development of individual personality in the widest and deepest possible fellowship. The fullest possible development of individual personality in the widest and deepest possible fellowship. Sounds like a good aim to me. And of course, government is looking again at the role, at the relationship between localities and central government, particularly over welfare in the wake of the pandemic. And our own MP here in Devizes, Danny Kruger, has written a report levelling our communities, calling for a new covenant with, particularly with faith groups, to help provide that local welfare. Interesting time then to read Temple again, and I commend that little book to you, Christianity and Social Order. There we are. Well, I look forward to a new week of reflections and locations of going to ground with you. So God bless you this week, and I'll see you soon.